Hello, friends. So, I am here to just talk to you a little bit about sun salutations and about our sun salutation practice that's coming up for the winter solstice this coming Monday. So, this practice is a come as you are practice for sure. It is not intended to be challenging, although it can be if you wish it to be. But it's really intended to be a connection opportunity, an opportunity to connect to, which is what the sun salutations really are an opportunity to do, is to originally connect you into that initiation into the practice of yoga, which is always about union and union with a greater force of love and with a greater force of connection to our best self and to the best self of all. And it's intended to connect us to this feeling of heat rising within us, sunlight, our own inner light, the inner light of our community and the humans, both close and far. It is intended to be an opportunity to start to connect our body and our breath together so that it becomes a meditative movement. Once we start to move through these sun salutations, rather than them being a big burn and a big physical challenge, really at the heart of them, they're intended to connect us to the body, the breath, the mind, all linked together into a sort of sense of a meditative, really present place. So because this is a come as you are practice, I decided to record this instead of going into the studio. I stayed in my home, in my own little at-home space that I practice in, and I've come as I am. And I am showing up today without the ability to really go through a full sun salutation in my own practice right now because I'm recovering from being ill. But also I have some wrist injury stuff that I've been working with, and so I always modify. So I want to show you all the different ways to really connect to this so that you know that no one is ever left out of this practice. And the first way I'm going to show you how to do a sun salutation is in a seated position. I'm going to sit on my mat in my meditation chair, but you could do this in an actual chair as well, if that's more appropriate for you. Or if you happen to be in a bed for some reason and you really want to tune into this, you could do this in a bed. So I'm going to start off in this seated form. Now, I'm going to come to my seated place and I'm going to begin as I'll recommend that we begin on Monday night, but as I begin every practice, which is by lighting a candle, which for me signifies the moment of stepping into the space of yoga and helps me to set that intention and really just frames the start of my practice. So now, as I come into the seated position, I'm going to go ahead and turn and face you. But normally I'd have my back against the chair. So if you find your way into a seated place, maybe either in a cross-legged seated place, or like I said, if you're in a chair with your feet on the ground, and begin just by connecting down into your feet and down into your sits bones, and feel that you're supported in your seated position. Now the sun salutation is a 9 breath, 9 movement flow. And so these 9 breaths and these 9 movements are intended to, part of the physical part of the intention is to move the spine through a series of extension and flexion movement to start to open up our spine and to be able to warm the movement of the body into the flow of this flexion and extension. So to start off with, if we're going to do this in a seated position, we could do this really easily with hands on knees. The first inhale, we open up the chest and breathe in, lift through the heart space. And then exhale and round your back. Press your hands into your legs and look downward as you breathe out. And then inhale again, open up your spine, lift and open your chest. And exhale from here, either round your spine with your head staying toward your chest or bow forward all the way toward the ground. Then inhale and push your hands down into the ground or down into the seat of your chair. Lift and open your chest here. And exhale again, round your spine, round your spine. Then inhale, lift your arms up and overhead, stretch your fingers to the sky, and exhale, bring your hands to heart center and pause here. And there we are in a simple seated sun salutation. Now, a simple seated sun salutation can become a little more involved depending on how you're feeling. So the inhale, the initial inhale, reach your arms up and overhead, and exhale, then bow forward. And again, hands can be on your legs or your lap or all the way to the ground. Maybe your whole forehead stretches out and hits the ground. Then inhale, push into the ground or into the seat of your chair and lift your heart up. And exhale, push yourself back. Feel a long extension as you round your back. Then add a side stretch. Inhale, left arm up and overhead. Exhale it down. Inhale, right arm up and overhead. Exhale it down. And then finally, breathe in, reach your arms back up and overhead, and exhale, hands to heart center. If your shoulders are tight and it hurts to bring your hands together overhead, you can always keep your hands separated. You can even bend your elbows so that you're more in a goddess seated position. So this is a really simple, basic way to enter the sun salutation. I'm going to show you a second form of the flow. I'm going to move my chair out of the way now. And this is going to begin from a kneeling position now. And the kneeling position could, if being all the way back on your heels like so is not comfortable or not accessible for your knees, you could have a blanket, a bolster, or a block underneath your seat like so that you have a little more lift. That might make it more accessible. You could also still, again, maybe with a blanket underneath your knees, come to a kneeling position like so. And I'm going to show you a couple of different forms of this now that you can play with if this is appropriate in your body. So one version would be to simply start again by sitting back onto your heels. Inhale, reach your arms up and overhead, and exhale, bow forward, bow forward. Then with your hands on the mat or on your legs, inhale, lift your chest upward, and exhale, then move into child's pose. On your inhale, rise into tabletop, lift and open your chest. Exhale, round your spine. Then inhale, finally, again, reach your arms up to the sky. And exhale, bring your hands to heart center to pause here. So this is a simple kneeling position flow. I'm going to show you a couple of add-ons to this now. So inhale, and instead of staying on your heels, lift your butt off of your heels, come to a kneeling position, rise up, really stretch through your fingers. And then exhale, dive forward into the tabletop position. Inhale, lift your chest up and open your heart. Exhale and lean back into child's pose. As you inhale, then lift your chest, open your heart space. Exhale, round your spine. Inhale now, walk back to your legs, reach your arms up and overhead. Exhale, hands down in front of your heart. So this flow, these last two flows are really more like 8 breaths and 8 movements, which then you have that sort of time and space to kind of stay in your quiet at the end and pause and just feel the breath moving in and out of your body. Now, one more version on your knees could also involve a little stretch for your hips. So in this version, inhale, reach your arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold down to the ground. Inhale and lift your chest, open your heart. Exhale, sit back into your child's pose. Then inhale and step your right foot to the front of the mat and lift your arms over your head. As you exhale, step back to tabletop. Then with your inhale, bring your left foot up and reach your arms to the sky into a lunge. Exhale into tabletop. Inhale, extend your spine into the cow, and exhale, sit back into the child. Then inhale, reach your arms up and overhead, and exhale, pause with your hands at heart center. Now, of course, some of this could also involve, rather than a child's pose, if the work is appropriate for you, you could always move into a downward facing dog. But that is unnecessary. And downward facing dog is a pose that can also be done, of course, in a seated position. So I'm going to show you one more seated version of this with the legs stretched out, or actually bent to start off with. And I have a bolster in front of me now to support this. And I'm going to sit on a blanket to give myself just a little bit more lift as well. So I'm going to start off here. Then I'm going to show you one standing version, the non-full flow, to finish this all off. Okay, so if I start here in this position, I'm going to inhale and reach the arms up, my arms up and overhead, and then exhale, hands come down all the way to the ground as I fold forward into my thighs. Then inhale and I stretch my legs long, lift my arms back up and overhead, and exhaling, now move into a seated downward dog. So I'm going to reach out, stretch through my heels, and push through my hands. Now, inhale, slide my hands back to the bolster, lift my chest up, and exhale again. Now I forward fold, and maybe I bring my forehead all the way down to the bolster. You could also have a block here to support your head if coming all the way that low is too much. And then to finish it off, rebend my knees, inhale, reach my arms up and overhead, and exhale back down into center in a seated squat position, a seated malasana. So this is a nice hip opener actually too, and a chest opener, and it gives a really nice lengthening for my spine. So now a standing version. A standing version without the need for chaturanga, and possibly with or without downward dog. This might start you off in a mountain pose, feeling the strength of your legs. Then inhale, arms up and overhead, and exhale with a little bend in my knees. I'm going to fold forward. Now, of course, if folding all the way to the ground is not appropriate, maybe you have a chair here to support. As you inhale then, rise and lengthen halfway. And exhale then, I'm going to step back to downward dog, or maybe you yourself are in child's pose. The next inhale, lift and open my chest into the extension Exhale and flow into the rounded space, and then sit back into down dog or into child's pose. From here, inhaling, I step both feet up and rise up halfway. Exhale and fold back down. Inhale and rise all the way to stand with my arms overhead, and exhale, bring my hands to heart center. So this is another modified version. Then of course, it could simply be a flow from standing to folding, to rising and folding, and standing and stretching, and standing and stretching, and standing and pausing. So I show you all of these variations, my friends, because there are so many. The Surya Namaskar, sun salutation again, the 9 breaths, the 9 movements are intended to bring you into your body, home into your body, and connect your body movement with your breath. And in doing so, bring your mind into the present moment and to illuminate the bright sense of your own beautiful self connected with the bright, beautiful self of each other person who is flowing with you in this time and space. So remember that honoring your body really is the most important part of all of this, and connecting to your heart these are the most important parts of this. And in doing this 108 times of some version, maybe the first version and the last version and the middle ones in between are all very, very different. So please know that this is one of the gifts I'm taking from this year, this 2020 year, where my cat has decided to be a part of this video with me today. That's the first time I've had him here with me. So one of the gifts of 2020 really is that we get to come as we are for this event. So that's always been the case, truly. But sometimes it's hard to remember that when we're in a room with everybody else doing what we think we're supposed to. You're in your own home this year, my friends. You get to light your own candle, sit in your chair, sit on your mat, stand on your mat, lay in your bed, whatever it is that makes sense for you. And I just hope that you're able to be in community with us in some way. I look forward to seeing you on Monday and in all future times together. Thank you all so much. Namaste.